The restaurant industry has had it tough. First there was COVID, then there's staffing shortages, now higher food prices. We're going to talk to a restaurant industry expert just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show.
So we've all probably run into somebody who says, I'm going to get into the restaurant business because I'm going to make a bunch of money. Well, those who are in the restaurant industry would tell you that sometimes the profit margins are very, very narrow, and that doesn't change until you meet a guy like Ward Olgreen. He is with Marketing Vitals. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard this before. Oh my goodness, I'm just going to make a bunch of money in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, I mean, most people come to the restaurant industry with a passion for an idea, and then they want to take it out and replicate it and go over and over again. But there's so many costs and so many pieces of the puzzle that have to come together to make the perfect picture to the customer.
And there's money leaks, and sometimes the restaurant industry doesn't actually know where they're making their biggest profits.
Yeah, there's a lot of data behind the scenes that you can process and understand to make better decisions. Because ultimately, it's for us, it's like learning math. You know, what's the value of learning math? What's the ROI on math? And so much of that is in the details of our business. It's really understanding, in the eyes of the consumer, in the wallet of the consumer, what do they like, what do they dislike, and how are they talking to you by way of the transaction.
And you were telling me off camera that you actually know data down to the customer. So if I make a reservation for Jeff and Victoria for our anniversary dinner, you know what I had last year.
Yeah, it's kind of like the difference between Big Brother and a helping brother. So Big Brother is when you're collecting data to kind of use it against somebody. Helping brother is where we're collecting information to make the purchasing process easier. You know, we know when you want to dine, what you like, what you don't like. We try to steer you in the right direction. Similar to like an Amazon, when you order a motor, they also suggest the people who buy this also buy a seal. You know, things like that. So it's the same thing in the restaurant industry. We try to help push out messaging that is relevant to the person receiving it, ultimately so a person who loves salad never gets a steak offer.
Right. I think this is absolutely fascinating. We found a video. Now, this was shot several years ago, but it does a good job giving an overview. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Marketing Vitals has been instrumental in helping my company succeed. One of my most favorite things that it's done for me is save me so much time. I spent days going through data, building spreadsheets, trying to analyze the information and figure out where the numbers were, where things might be down, where we might be up, and what problems I needed to solve. I live 600 miles away, and when I recently came into town, I was able to do employee evaluations. I was sitting with a young lady, and we were noticing that she did not sell many salads, but she did point out to me that she was very fond of our soups and actually thought she was probably one of our best sellers. In the past, I would have either had to just take her word for it or go back and take time again to reanalyze, restudy, and see where she was on soup sales. Within the matter of a few moments, I was able to immediately clone the same data I was looking at and change the word salads for soups. It brought up immediately that she was in fact our #1 seller and did a great job of selling soups. The second part of Marketing Vitals that I was most intrigued with is for my server contest. With Marketing Vitals, I am able to instantly access where they stand, what their ranks are, and who may or may not be trying to push the product I'm trying to push. I'm able to do that through Marketing Vitals just with a click of a button, and I'm certainly enjoying the product.
Ward, what I love about this is sometimes even restaurateurs who have been in the business for decades can learn stuff. You were telling me a story about a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, it's one of the fast casual diner players that during lunch was offering these 2 diners for $20, right? So $10 each. And we were trying to discuss with them what's the purpose of the project, and they had a guest ticket average of like $9.75. And we were able to show them that not only does no guest actually spend $9.75, but the idea of producing a higher guest ticket average wasn't going to happen. By segmenting the guests into layers of spend, you can actually show how many people will actually trade up to the 2 for $20 versus how many will trade down. And we were able to prove out that more people were going to trade down from happily spending $15, $18 a person to trade down for 2 for $20. So it actually did the exact opposite. It actually drove the guest ticket average down, which turned out to be just really kind of a waste of money.
Sure, and I know that the restaurant industry is like a lot of industries. Maybe it starts with a chef who's very passionate about something, and then the chef opens a restaurant, and that person may not have read a management book, may not have read a leadership book. They know how to make a great meal, but they don't actually know how to run a restaurant.
It is. It's how every restaurant brand started. Every restaurant brand started with a single person who had a passion or an idea for a product. And blink twice, they got 100 locations, but they may not have all the processes needed to manage the bottom line. Or in our case, we actually help to manage the top line. You can have perfect costs, and you can perfectly go out of business if you're not driving top line sales and getting people to come in, taking care of them. In our business, they always say sales is the cure to all evil. For me, it's always been frequency is the cure to all sales, because you've got to have the people coming in and again to make the business worthwhile.
Absolutely, and anybody is only as good as their team. We want to show some pictures of your team at different conferences. You guys go out to various conferences around the country, don't you?
Yeah, it's about meeting with existing clients, looking at meeting with prospects. We also have a lot of integrations with other technology companies where we bring in data like weather or loyalty information, rewards, gift cards, again, point of sale systems, because we're connecting to the point of sale systems to gather all the transactions, and then we actually pair that with payment processor to then learn what do they like, how often do they like it, how much are they willing to spend, to again make sure that the messages back out to them are relevant to how they dine and how they live.
And I applaud you because you're extending the life of many of these restaurants that we all fall in love with, and then the next thing you know, oh, they closed that place.
It is. It's really hard to build sales, but it's really easy to lose them.
Yeah.
Because it can be a great idea that just falls on its face because you don't have the data behind it to support it. So our industry grew up at a time when all you had to do was open the doors and you're going to build sales. But it got to also, it was kind of a Wild West, right? You're going to just shoot from the hip. Every idea works, so you just thought that every future idea is going to work. Nowadays, again, with margins getting tighter, you really can't afford to make a mistake in relation to marketing spend. Most people are spending 4 to 6% on marketing. It's a lot of money to then spend it incorrectly. And that's where the data coming out of the point of sale system is all fact-based. These are your customers talking to you by way of their wallet. We always say there's no more honest way a guest can talk to you about your brand than how they buy your food. And from that standpoint, you just got to listen.
When you're sitting down with a client for the first time and you show them the data, are they often shocked?
It's amazing. A lot of the smaller brands, one, they may not have the resource to be able to handle what they're going to get, right? It's like giving Einstein's ideas to a fourth grader. But even the larger brands, some of the brands that are 2,000 and 3,000 unit count, they look at it, and even though they may have 40 or 60 analysts on the team, they're looking at saying, all these guys combined can't give us what you can give us, which is basically analytics in a box.
And tell us about how higher food costs has affected restaurants.
Well, the positive and negative, right? So the negative is sometimes a restaurant, because of food cost, will make bad decisions around menu and portions because they're trying to short-term stay in business. But ultimately, when you start to understand and maybe shrink your menu size, right? Often the first step a person makes is, I got to raise my sales, so let's add menu, when that may be the last thing they need to do. We can actually help to detect how many menu items need to be removed from the menu, right? While retaining sales, but also which items on a per location basis actually drives affinity to brand. So in other words, I can see that Bob has come in, Bob continually comes back in specifically for this item. So don't remove that item because you're going to lose Bob.
Gotcha. And I imagine some restaurateurs are surprised at how few of this menu item they actually sell, and you can bog down a kitchen if the chef has to do everything, right?
Yeah, and it can be confusing because when you just look at the raw data as far as you could have two different stores, both selling 30 items a month, right? One store could be one person who loves it and bought all 30 days in a row. The other store could be 30 different people who all tried it once but never ordered it again.
And do you discover that there are regional differences? I mean, does Plano shop different than Mesquite?
Yeah, it's unique. A lot of people always think that, well, the people in New York buy different than Texas. Well, the people in Plano buy different than South Dallas and Mesquite and Fort Worth, because there's pockets of flavor preferences, especially when you bring in all the different people who are moving in from other countries. And so it's really important to understand your menu layout on a per trade area basis, but also what you're asking your employees to direct people towards. So when you know that this 2 or 3 items drive people to come back for more visits and reorder that item, then it's really important to steer people towards those menu items that prove out the best.
Ward, I think you're absolutely brilliant. I'm blown away, and I'm just fascinated with the restaurant industry because I've known so many restaurateurs with a good heart, but they ended up making some bad financial decisions. We're going to end with Ward's website, which is marketingvitals.com. Ward Olgreen, thanks for coming on the show.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.